Coming to you live with the insight you need from the financials and political capitals of the world to the heart of innovation. This is Opportunities to Consider with your host, author, speaker, and corporate strategist, Hunter Gaylor.
Founder, Chairman, CEO of OriginClear. The government needs to continue to provide a lot of abundant, clean water. But what happens to it after it's used, when it's dirty? Do you know that 80% of all sewage is never treated, it's just dumped? That leads to water scarcity, but it also leads to a lot of disease and pollution, the ocean turning into something horrible. At the same time, the cities and counties are not getting the funding they need to really treat the water, and so they can't keep up. The solution is let the people who use the water clean the water. Water on demand is a way for regular investors to invest in water systems that are built at the local business, industrial, agricultural level. Not the big central systems, but rather this new breed of private water treatment. Let's say you're a brewery and you're making lots more beer and therefore you make lots more leftover water. Where does it go? Well, the cities are saying that's too much, we can't take it. At the brewery, they're not in the business of water treatment, this is brand new, and so they need a solution. Also, they're not experts. You're going to ask them to hire a water expert? That doesn't work either, right? What we have is a solution which is water on demand, which means I need water treatment, boom, you get it. No need for capital, no need for maintenance, just sign on a dotted line, the machine shows up on your site and it's maintained and it treats the water. We have opened up investment in these water systems to the general investing public. We're charging these people on the meter just the same way they're used to with the city, right? But it's not the city doing it anymore, it's the business. Business loves it, why? Because if they treat the water themselves, guess what? They can reuse it, they can recycle, they can get more water for their money, and now we take care of a lot of the scarcity problems. So this is a solution that solves so many problems in the water industry. In today's economic climate, you want to get away from just holding on to dollars or even holding on to gold, because gold doesn't earn money, right? Water on demand is investment in actual capital assets that earn income. But think about it. If you can get a tangible asset and make royalty money from your tangible asset, then it's the best of all worlds. Lots of assets out there. A lot of people know they need to invest in assets. So therefore, assets are skyrocketing in value. Crude oil, precious metals, commodities of all kinds, lumber, you name it. Water has only begun. It's the beginning of the run for water. Water on demand is the first program to enable investors like you and me to get into an asset. I believe it's a once in a generation opportunity to make real change with our health, water, and also to take advantage of the development of an asset that will throw off revenue and, I believe, increase in value tremendously. The first thing you can do is to sign up to hear my weekly briefing. It's every Thursday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Just put oc.gold/CEO in your browser, register for the briefing. If you can't make it to actually watch it, you'll get the replays automatically. But week by week, you will hear about this amazing program being developed in real time, and you will be in on something exciting. Whether you're an investor or not, you will be in on this heartbeat of an activity that I think is just phenomenal. Obviously, I love it. I'm one of the people who helped develop it, and we have a lot of work ahead of us. We want you to join us because it needs to become, and I believe it will become, a movement. Stay tuned, and I look forward to hearing more from you.
How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of New to the Street, where this is our digital version and we're coming to you where we bring the in-depth conversations with the CEOs that are changing industry, but not just changing industry, leading industry change. And today I have the pleasure of being joined right here live on the digital platform, streaming across all platforms today with the CEO of OriginClear, who you just listened to the intro from. And I want to bring him in here now. This is CEO Riggs, who's the chairman and CEO of OriginClear. Thank you so much for being with us today. I'm very much looking forward to speaking with you.
Hunter, it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Well, listen, obviously water is something that's very important. And we saw in your opening video that you are really doing this, really the first industry that I've ever looked into where it's water on demand. Normally we would think water on demand is walking into your local convenience store or grocery store and taking a water from the shelf. But this is really an industry that has not really been disrupted from what I understand. So I really want to just dive in deep with you and go through some of the real world things that you're doing and really hear straight from you and the leadership of OriginClear of what you're doing. And I really want to start with something that I think is relevant for a lot of the people that listen across all of our networks. And, you know, we hear about the problems in cities like Flint, Michigan. These are very isolated instances, or are they a symptom of a greater problem?
Right. That's a really good point. And, you know, it's just like, you know, when you see one cockroach, you know, there's 100 cockroaches behind the wall. That's kind of the problem we've got with water. And the problems are popping up more and more. We have, of course, Flint, which has been an ongoing problem. There was a big mess in Compton a few years ago. Jackson, Mississippi, late last year blew up. Fort Lauderdale, despite being a wealthy community, has had a lot of problems. Also, you know, there is a growing water problem in the Ohio River watershed as a result of that major derailment that occurred in East Palestine. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about the fact that the municipalities, the public utilities, have been underfunded for many years. In fact, since 1961, so this is not one particular administration, there's been an underfunding of the infrastructure that was built pre-war that was wonderful, right? So there was this wonderful infrastructure and then nobody maintained it. Meanwhile, industry grew, more population, more toxins, and we have a system that's basically broken.
Well, you know, it's very interesting because this is obviously very relevant because of the incident that just recently happened in East Palestine, Ohio. And people are talking about this. We're having government leaders that are even reluctant to drink some of the own tap water, as we saw in some of the news outlets. But should we be worried about the release of some of these toxic chemicals into the ground, such as what happened recently in Ohio? And what can we do about it? What should we be doing about it? And what role is OriginClear playing in this incident?
Well, very good question. Let's set the stage here. 90% of all water demand is by industry and agriculture, and only 10% is the people, which basically means that industries are monopolizing the city infrastructure that is built, and as a result, people lose out. Now, I think that is not the fault of the users, but rather the fact that it's just impossible for a central system to keep up with growing demands. And then on top of it, you get, you know, a big vinyl chloride dump, you know, into the aquifer. And now you have to take extra special precautions, which again, the utilities are not set up for. Where people are going in their own homes is towards individual filtration. I personally think that entities like Norfolk Southern are going to have to pay for people to have their water purification in home. Bottled water is not a solution. Forget about it. It needs to be done properly. But let's take a look at businesses, right? Remember, 90%. If they are 90% of the load and the system is overloaded, then take load off. And so what we do at Water on Demand is we help industry do its own work. And they offload the work of purifying the water. Remember that a single hair that goes into a chip fabrication factory can stop the entire factory cold if it's in the water. So incoming water, treating the dirty water that they create, and recycling it, which America doesn't do. All that can be done by the businesses themselves. And you know what? They're delighted to. It's the solution.
With it being the solution, how well, if we take a step back when you said setting the stage, how well does the U.S. recycle its water supply currently? And does it help in drought scenarios? How do we go about recycling for the individual businesses that are using, but also are needing?
Right. Well, we basically don't. Let's take a look. For example, Israel recycles almost 90% of this water. The next in the world is actually Spain at 20%, America 1%. Why? Very simple. It's like our energy grid. It was built long ago, and it's a one-way grid. So the utilities, they treat the water and then they discharge it into the groundwater, into the rivers and the ocean, et cetera. Treat it. I'm not saying it's dirty, but I'm saying that it's being wasted. And now we have these 2,000-year droughts in the West. And meanwhile, water is just being thrown away. So it's kind of a disaster. When a business starts doing its own water management, it's incentivized to do with recycling. Why? Because it doesn't have to keep paying for that water, right? I paid for it one time coming in. Hey, I've got it. I cleaned it. Let me use it again and again. And each time I use it, I'm saving more money. That's a major incentive for them, not so much for the city because they got so many problems already.
Riggs, let me ask the question. With the world in the process of this deglobalization, and we're seeing, as you mentioned earlier on in the start of this conversation, that we have not had serious infrastructure development or redevelopment in this particular space since, I believe, as you said, 1961. What are some of the things that OriginClear is doing to help on this infrastructure side of things? And what does that mean for the future of the U.S. water supply that is not up in the 90% like the Israels of the world, but yet have tremendous amounts of agricultural strain on our system? What is OriginClear doing?
Well, I think that's where it's some really great news, because what America is going to do, we have a geopolitical situation where, for reasons I'm not going to get into, the world is deglobalizing. More and more corporations are realizing they should not rely on a factory in China. So everything's coming back. Now there's going to be a period of 3, 4, 5 years when things are kind of helter-skelter. But then we're going to settle into, I believe, into a long-term boom of rebuilding America's infrastructure. And guess what? It'll be modern this time. We will have the most modern infrastructure in the world because it's the latest, even better than Israel's. And because there won't be enough time to build big central plants, it'll all be what we call co-located. The water plant is with the factory, with the brewery, with the farm, co-location, right? And that way, each individual user treats their own water, and we make it possible with our end-to-end financing and full outsourcing model, which we call water on demand.
Well, I think that's a great segue into my next question I have for you. With this decentralization from these larger plants into the more regional or localized approach to water treatment, what are some of the best ways that we, the individual or the business, can now invest in water as an asset? Is there such thing as a water marketplace, or are you creating it?
Right. Well, historically, there's never been a water marketplace. Why? Because it's hard to transport water. What are you going to do? I'm in Georgia. I need water from New York. It's very heavy and it's very cheap. So the real problem, however, is if I do have a water risk, let's talk finance for a second. I'm in Northern California. I have a brewery. I'm spending money through the nose for water because of a drought. Where can I go ahead and offset my risk? Nowhere. What we believe is that by getting initially North America and eventually international users to start treating water with a private metering system called water on demand, so it's a pay per gallon system, each gallon of water will have a dollar value, right? Will be paid for. And so now I can go ahead and buy a hedge on Singaporean water because that Singaporean water was built and is being operated on the same pay per gallon private basis. So I believe there's a market coming years away for sure. I'm not saying it's right away, but that's the potential. Meanwhile, what a business can do right now is they can sign up for water on demand, and they can simply, simple email water@originclear.com. They'll get immediate consulting, a brilliant team. tripled our business last year. We are on a roll. Let's talk about investors. Investors right now can become royalty recipients from a bundle of water assets. And all they have to do is go to OriginClear.com and click on the Invest Now button, top right, and it has all the information to do it. And we are welcoming people right now. It's extremely generous. Why? Because it's the very early stage. So this is the opportunity, I think, to get on the ground floor of a brand new investable asset called water. How cool is that?
Oh, it's really great. I've always been interested in a lot of the people that I see buying water companies that you see on the shelf, but actually being able to be in the treatment and purification process is definitely as I always like to say, a game changer in the industry. But let me just go into this this one point. The leaders in the water as a service business, which is what you were alluding to, will be those that are already in place, which is what I believe you were saying. But can you talk a little bit about OriginClear's water on demand being, what's your competition? What does the field look like? Because based on our analysis research, this is really the first that we've seen in water on demand.
Absolutely. Well, there are players. I'm going to just mention two that are very good. One is called Seven Seas, and they actually own the water as a service trademark. They've done it for a long time. They specialize in very large, desalination for an entire island. They do large scale. And who funds them? J.P. Morgan Capital. They've got I'm sorry, Morgan Stanley Capital Partners. I apologize. Morgan Stanley Capital Partners funds them, so you can't invest in Seven Seas. Not open to you. And then another one is out in is actually has a lot of business in California, but they are based up in the Northeast, and they're called Cambrian Innovation. They are venture capital funded. Once again, everyday investors can't get in. We came up with this similar model for the small to medium business that everyday investors can invest in, just like an oil well, because you and I can invest in an oil well through a master limited partnership. It requires knowing what to do. You don't just do it through your Robinhood, but it's fairly accessible. You can do that now in the Water on Demand program. And I think that makes us unique, because by far the largest capital pool out there is everyone.
Well, I think that's a very good point, Riggs. And I think that's important for the audience to understand that there is an ability for the standard retail investor on the street, on Main Street, to participate in such a disruptive industry like the water industry. And especially when everyday people, like in East Palestine and some of these other places like Flint, Michigan, are directly the recipients of what seems to be like either poor management or an unfortunate incidents that happen. So the fact that the investor, based on what you're saying, is not just the big banks or the large venture capital firms, but you've taken something directly to Main Street for the everyday individual and business owner, and that's a very commendable. I would just like to follow up with our listeners. We've put the company's information in the lower thirds here. You can make sure you go to their website, OriginClear.com. And as Riggs said, there's a lot of helpful information on their website. There's the Invest Now button that you can check out. Riggs, is there anything that you'd like to tell our audience that is important, or something that you want to make sure that you get across today?
Okay, well, very good point. Now, if people want to get royalties, they need to be accredited investors. But we've also just received approval from the SEC for an unaccredited investor offering, which we're about to put out. So it's effective. We haven't launched it yet because we're still putting together all the e-commerce and so forth, but very, very imminently. And so that anybody can invest, and that is shares in this new company, Water on Demand Inc., which is what we have incubated. OriginClear is the first incubator in the water industry, and Water on Demand is the first launched company that we're rolling out. It's got its own unaccredited investing and opportunity where you can get shares in that and thereby benefit from Water on Demand's own revenues from all that water as a service that goes on. So the thing to do is go ahead and go to the Invest Now button. If you're unaccredited, say so. It will then give you the opportunity to get in line for that offering, and we welcome. I'm so happy that everyone can invest in Water on Demand, not just the 1%.
Well, I think that's very interesting. And I just want to bring up one more point that you made, and this is a water incubation organization that you've put together. So what about some of the other businesses that are maybe startups, or they're looking for guidance and they happen to be passionate about this sustainability, what I would put into the green natural resources category? Water, as everybody knows, is the most valuable resource we have here on this planet. What can companies do if they're interested in being in this space?
Okay, so here's where we're at on the sequence of things. We have already have a slate of companies. The next company that is on the list is one that we've been developing since 2018 called Modular Water Systems. And these are essentially water systems in a box that are perfectly sized for this new generation of on-site co-located water treatment systems. And it is now booming. I mean, their revenue, as I was saying, has taken off. Sales tripled last year. Unbelievable growth. And they are ready to become their own company in due course. So we have a launch pad. The best thing that people can do right now is come to my briefings. At the beginning of the show, you had me inviting people to put in oc.go/CEO in their browser to sign up for my Thursday night briefings. Do join, because you'll be able to introduce yourself to me right there on the show. And let's I respond to all comments. We say we are the most transparent public company in America. Every Thursday night, you find out what's going on, and I think that's unique.
No, I think that is extremely unique, and to have a CEO of a company out there that's willing to put themselves out there and at least have the conversation is incredible, and it's very commendable as well. I know there's a lot of CEOs that don't want to put themselves out there, but the fact that you're out there talking about something that affects not just a certain select group of people, but all people, I think leads us to a much better future and a healthier future. So I definitely commend you on that. Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we end the program?
Hunter, just really the thing for people to remember is that we can try and fix our water systems all we want, but as long as they are underfunded and overburdened, it's not going to happen. So job one is right now is to unburden the system with these local businesses doing their own water management. Now we're going to be able to get the people, the cities properly serving the people. Do you know that in Ireland, water is free? And in America, your water bill can get pretty darn high, and that's not right. By getting industry and agriculture off of the water grid and doing their own treatment, the people can get the service. And that, I believe, is the fair thing to do. I'm working hard on that, and I hope you will join me.
Well, we are definitely here following the journey. I look forward to having you on multiple times, continuing the conversation of such an important topic moving forward. Riggs, Chairman and CEO of OriginClear. Once again, check out their stock symbol. It's OCLN. Take a look at their website. Make sure you go to his site that he said, where you can listen to him talk and you connect with him. Riggs, thank you so much for joining the program. This is New to the Street, our digital live specials that come on right after the show airs on Newsmax on Saturdays. And we just thank you. If you want more information, we provide all of the links below. We're streaming across Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, all social media links. So if you don't find us on mine or New to the Street, we're on Fox Business, Bloomberg, and this is our digital channel. So Riggs, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having you here again very soon.
We'll be seeing you around World Water Day on March 22nd in New York. Thank you so much.
Very much. We're very much looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Riggs.